welcome back, everyone, to another Plug Talk Sports episode. I am, of course, Brandon, joined by Jonka and Isaac. Danny is not with us. He's traveling around the world right now. However, a lot of things going around the world in South Florida as well as in sports. But before we go into any of the topics, though, let's go into the best and worst thing of the week. Isaac, which one do you want to start with first?
I'll go on my little rants first for like shameless plug. Man, I won't say where I work. I won't reveal any private details, but essentially I have a new position at my job and I have to look at social media. And I'm talking about hours on end. I have to be on the Twitter, on YouTube, Instagram, all that good stuff. And we're going to get into a lot of soccer today. I brought my soccer jersey. I got to get an Inter Miami jersey. I know, before the show started, you guys gave me flack for it. So we're going to get into the World Cup and all that. But with the result of the women's team, the U.S. women's team loss, I did see way too many comments, hateful comments. I understand if you were going for the team and, they lost, they weren't able to play well enough to win. They missed a lot of shots. Like I said, we're going to get into all that. But my shameless plug of the week is the hate, the absolute hate. And a lot of people calling them woke or, based on their own political beliefs or whatever. But a lot of the comments that pissed me off and got me riled up, and the main reason why I chose this shameless plug is because I saw a lot of anti-American comments, like not that the comment was anti-American, but just the people themselves were saying that the team is anti-American because of the views of a few players or whatever, and they were happy that they lost. And I can't think of anything more anti-American than bashing your own team's, your own country's team. And you got to support the team regardless if they lose or how they lose. The sheer amount of comments that I saw from people who are just couch potatoes, lying on the couch eating chips, watching sports. These keyboard warriors, I mean, they got me so riled up, and I could not wait to share my shameless plug. All of you people with your hate, you can take that somewhere else, man, because I'm not for it. We got to support our people regardless if they win or lose. And yeah, that's all I have to say. You guys can go ahead with your shameless plug.
Jonka, what about you?
Shameless. It would have to be me and Brendan went this Saturday to the training camp.
That's right.
And we went, and it was a good time and all. But the one bad thing is that we had to sit in like this heat.
Yeah.
That was just raining and blazing right over our heads. At the same time, the day looked like it was gonna rain, so the humidity started to pick up. So while the blazing heat and all the humidity, it was really hard to enjoy what we were watching because I was just drenched in sweat after like 5 minutes of just showing up.
Yeah. But, it's that humidity, though, man. It's a little, advantage for South Florida, though.
But then overall, the one thing I really did hate was Tua's performance. It wasn't that good to me. My brother says otherwise, but he's biased. He's a Dolphin fan. So, yeah, it just wasn't. I wasn't impressed at all from what he was showing. Mike White, though.
Yeah.
I know this is a negative. This is a bad take, but shout out to Mike White, though. He didn't do that bad.
Yeah, and I know that for Mike White and also Skylar Thomas, they're kind of going back and forth with that, that second string position. So, but he did have a really good camp, though, especially on Saturday. For me personally, my bad part of this week, I was, kind of good and bad, but I moved, for temporarily. I'm homeless, technically. So I'm at my parents' house here in South Florida. So I don't know if everyone can see it, but a lot of laundry and luggage I still have yet to pick up. And I moved here like 4 days ago. You know what I mean? I've done everything furniture-wise, but I'm just too lazy for laundry. I don't understand it. I don't know. Maybe it's just everyone like me on trips. I don't touch anything. But let's go to the good part now. Isaac, best part of your week.
Well, I know the term is actually shameless plug. You know, when like you share something personal they want to put out there. So I don't know what the new term would be or new term I would use, right? But essentially, I was able to release a music video, not of my own, but you know, for those of you that know, I do have my little small business, and I love to shoot photography and music videos and so forth. And I finally was able to get together with the artist and release a music video that I have been working on since March. Um, I mean, I won't get into too much, but basically we got 2 videos all shot in one day, different locations, driving all over Miami. I mean, it was insane. And it just feels good to put out another piece of content out there that people might enjoy. So it's called New Level by this artist named Humble Ricky from North Miami. So I'm just glad, man. It felt like homework working on that video since March, but I finally got it out there. And you guys can check that out again on YouTube. It's called New Level by Humble Ricky.
Nice. John Cook.
Man, if you guys don't know what it is, you're living under a rock. It's my boy Messi.
I did it, yeah.
Went from like demigod to like God, and then like just like I don't know how the level above God, whatever that term is. He was controversial. He's him. He's him, but above him. And I was just shocked. For those of you that didn't watch the game, Messi scores in the opening minutes, and then Dallas scores, tie 1-1. Then Dallas goes on to score another one, 2-1. Not looking good. The defense for Inter Miami. I know we're gonna get into it a little bit later, maybe, but I'm gonna say it now. The game was not good. It was 3-1. Then all of a sudden, we score. Then there's an own goal for us, an own goal for Dallas, and then Messi puts probably the greatest free kick I've ever seen in my entire life from outside the box, perfectly placed in the top right. You couldn't have placed it any better. Ties the game up. Legendary. Goes on to win it 5-4 in the penalties. They're on to the round of 8. And I think at 9:30 coming up, it will be Charlotte versus Houston Dynamo to decide who we play against. So I'm definitely gonna be watching that. But yeah, it was shout out to Messi's performance.
No, shout out Messi. And funny enough, we're not going to be talking about Messi for this episode. However, definitely he's been changing things for Inter Miami, and we haven't been, to the MLS regular season yet. But just to go real quick, because I want to get into the sports talk, of course. For me, the best thing I saw, I don't know if you guys heard it or not. I'm a huge horror fan. Talk to Me recently came on the theaters, but was originally at the I think the Sundance Film Festival, something like that. But funny enough, it was made by these YouTubers that I've watched ever since I was 15 years old, Raka Raka. They directed it, and I don't know how, but it became this huge film now where it's from Australia, purchased by A24, and and the whole movie's by YouTubers. You know what I mean? From the actors, directors, all that in between. So that was the best thing I saw. Something that, child me loved to see. But definitely see Talk to Me in theaters if you haven't seen it yet. But let's go straight into sports, though. Isaac, who has already kind of opened up this topic, but Sweden against the United States. And there's a lot of words you could put down for this United States team. Dennis Rodman's daughter is a part of it. A lot of players who have won the previous World Cups recently, this is their last ride with new blood. And that new blood, I mean, it really did show, from whatever game that you saw, besides, of course, the opener 3-0 victory for the U.S. against Vietnam. A lot of it was they're controlling the pace, the tempo looks nice, but they can't get they just can't get anything behind the net, the back of the net. It makes no sense in my mind. But Isaac, for you, from this Sweden game specifically, what were your takes from it?
Well, I mean, I hate to say it because I want to initially my initial thought after the game, I want to give Sweden all the credit in the world, which they made their penalties, they got it done, right? They did exactly what was needed to win. And I know the ball, if it crossed the net, I mean,
Yeah.
crossed the line, or maybe it didn't. That was a little controversial. I think it was a clean call at the end of the day. But yeah, it's got USA choking written all over it. You have Rapinoe, just biggest stage in the world, biggest kick that she could take towards the end of her career, and she shanks the penalty. And at that point, it was still 3-2. But yeah, they just could not have that finishing touch. And Brandon, like for a quick second, you already just said it right now. They have such a young core coming up for the next World Cup, and mind you, these ages. I found this on the Fox Soccer page on Instagram, and I thought it was a key thing to take away. This would be for the 2027 World Cup, so of course the ages have been bumped up. But just for some of the names that you mentioned, Brandon, Alyssa Thompson, she will be 22. Trinity Rodman will be 25. Sophia Smith, 26. Uh, Naomi Girma, she'll be 26. Emily Fox, 28. Ashley Sanchez, 28. And Savannah DeMello, 29. All of these players currently are under 25. So that should tell you something. Hopefully, I know that now the coach's job might be in question as well, which if it were up to me, I don't change the coach, but I don't know. We'll see what happens in the time in between. But yeah, initially it was a choke job. And I know we talked about it before that this could happen. Danny had asked me if I thought they could still go all the way. I said so. I thought that, they still had some nice pieces, and if they kind of put their pants up, they'll be able to get there. But they choked, and it was very, very unfortunate.
No, yeah. I mean, and also, as you mentioned before, I think, Jill Ellis, who has been trying to go, trying to help this U.S. team, even though she's not coaching anything like that. I do apologize. I don't know the current coach's name because, of course, he's more or less new. But after that Vietnam game, I'm thinking to myself, we're going to bulldoze every single bit of competition through the group stage. But what were the matchups we had? Like what? The Netherlands, then Sweden. I mean, those are just, in general, top 10. And we didn't even get close to past the round of 16. But also, as you mentioned, from the output of the game itself, it did go to penalties. The United States made their first three, and then Rafinha, and then I don't even know what exactly happened, but we had the game in our hands. We didn't put it away. Sweden, of course, made their penalties. They ended up beating us out 5-4 in penalties. But I just, whenever I think about this squad, this will be a forgotten team. No one's going to remember the Sophia Smith commercial for Nike. No one's going to be remembering the group stage and how, even though, yes, no losses, but struggled going out of the group stage in order to even survive against Portugal. But this team, I think it does come with some takeaways. Jonka, what are your takeaways of the team in this World Cup?
I'm gonna let you know, if you didn't hear last week's take about this team, you're definitely not gonna like this one because I'm gonna be very harsh. Okay. How do I put this without being, how do you say disrespectful? Okay.
You could be honest, man. Forget about what I said to open. You could be honest. Be dead honest.
Listen, I'm gonna address the what you said about the coach. I don't think it was the coach's fault. I think the coach was just pushed to keep Rapinoe and Morgan in the roster. To be honest, they didn't do anything. Rapinoe was just legit like a skeleton, like a dead body, just not doing a thing. He was basically Udonis Haslam of the team, and we saw every match. We had plenty of shots taken and plenty of shots on goal. The possession was basically even, and so what I don't understand is the ball was not going in. So let's be honest here. If the ball is not going in, that's just one thing. But it's the way they carry themselves, the attitude, what how they. It wasn't a unit. It just felt like these two veterans with just with a bunch of young players. No leadership, no mentorship. Like you couldn't even tell who the next person up is on that team. Let's say Morgan and Rapino, where that's it, it's over. That's it. They don't play anymore. Who's the next person up? Like the next big name is it? But like having a big name doesn't give you the title of being the best player on the team. And so like can you guys even tell me who the next best player is?
Besides Sophia Smith, you're not looking at not because I know there's options, right? I mean, Trinity Rodman, she's supposed to be, a future star. Sophia Smith, they're already, they're endorsing her like crazy right now. But I mean, as you mentioned before, the Jonka, besides those two, I mean, nothing across my mind though.
What would you say? I would, if I had to think of one player, I would say Haran. I mean, she didn't score crazy amount of goals, but I mean, you watch that Netherlands game, she gets fouled nasty, and then she was able to be the one player to kind of still play with an attitude, with a chip on her shoulder. Mm-hmm. And I would not to change any subjects, or like talk about too long for other teams, but like let's not forget that also Germany choked.
Yeah.
Brazil choked as well. And they had, if you want to talk about like a Udonis Haslem, they had Marta, who has been playing since the 2002 World Cup. And they had a young core, but like nobody to take that initiative. So I completely agree with you, Jonka. Even if Haran did make plays here and there, it just like it wasn't consistent enough. It's a squad of 11 players. So you can't just rely on one player to make a play here and there.
But the biggest thing that triggered me, and I want everybody out there listening, what triggered me was after Sweden missed their first penalty kick. After that I forgot. Excuse me, I don't know her name, but like she's the first one that missed. She just whiffed it like freak. It's good. Like it's good. Rapino comes on, and then as she's walking, she's like smirking, like oh yeah, we got this in the bag. And I'm like, that miss got into her head. Just because she was smirking, that right there is karma for that attitude that she was carrying with her. And then she goes on to whiff it. And there you go. And they needed her to make that one, and she choked. Her bad attitude, the way she carried herself the entire World Cup. Now her political views and all that stuff, that's on the side. Forget about that. That's nothing to do with soccer, so I'm not gonna bring that up. But it's just you could just tell that she just thought because I'm on Team USA, we've won like I think back-to-back World Cups or whatever the case is.
Yeah, back-to-back.
That we're just automatically in the final. We're gonna go there. We're gonna walk in and just win it all again. No. A lot of teams are catching up in skill wise. You can't be slacking because you're gonna get caught. Just like Tim Anderson and with the Guardians fight, he got caught lacking and then he got dropped. But I'm just gonna say that. That's all I'm gonna say because I could go on a whole rant about it, but I'm not gonna do that. So
no, yeah. So
one thing I just wanted to add real quick, if you guys watched the England-Nigeria game, it was kind of that same thing where England is such a powerhouse, and again, you got to give like teams like Nigeria making history, going into the knockout stages, and they played their butt off and they got all the way to penalties. But it's like these top teams, are not dominating anymore, and it kind of tells you the development of the women's game. Spain looks amazing, winning that first round in a big rout. But other than that, like these top teams, they're struggling. And I don't know. just as a neutral viewer, I love it. Competition is great. But sorry, go ahead, Brandon.
No, of course. I mean, we always want to see an underdog go far, but with the United States, Germany, Brazil, and a whole lot of other ones not going to be able to finish past round of 16. So that competition still goes on throughout this week. But now let's move on to another part of the sports world, which I honestly think it's just silly at this point. Jake Paul, Nate Diaz, they did a fight in Dallas.
Good fight.
What is going on with these MMA fighters thinking they could just do boxing out of nowhere? Right? They're giving Jake Paul some sort of steam. I mean, I can't even. There has to be like a ridiculous number of MMA fighters that done boxing, but Jake Paul, in a unanimous decision, beats out Nate Diaz, and Nate Diaz, of course, had a full blown publicity of trash talking like he did. My apologies, previously in UFC. And unfortunately, it didn't work out well against Jake Paul. But Isaac, of course, a majority of your background, and as well as a lot of the articles that you can find on PlugTalkSports main blog, you do a lot of MMA talk, UFC talk as well.
Yeah.
What did you think about this fight, though? I mean, you think that it was just a Jake Paul, pound house, or you think Nate Diaz actually had a shot midway?
Well, so a couple of things before we even get to the fight. Like you just said, like the promotion that Nate Diaz was like talking trash and stuff. It didn't feel like the old Nate Diaz, and it didn't feel like he wanted to be there necessarily. He walked out of one of the press conferences. There was a big brawl too, which was ridiculous, which like between the teams of both guys. And the promo was just horrible. Like I watched it because it was Jake Paul and Nate Diaz because of that. But if I had no idea who any of these guys were, I would have never watched the fight. And the other thing is, big Jake Paul. Yeah, Jake Paul really did well, and I think he deserved the victory. But yeah, I mean, I think it's no mystery the fact that he lost the last fight to one of a relative of the Furies, right? And who was an actual boxer. Again, not a crazy boxer, not a championship boxer, but he's an experienced boxer, in the middle, in this prime of his career. And he lost that fight. But then Jake goes back to fighting these retired MMA fighters, like you said, Brandon. I think Nate Diaz was just there for the check. He showed his toughness. I mean, yeah, he did get knocked down at one point. I mean, let's face it, Jake Paul has a nice right hand. I think we could all agree. If you are defenseless, if you are not aware of the situation, like Tyron Woodley, you get dropped. You get dropped by Jake, who I don't remember what the weight class it was, but you could tell Jake Paul he's getting better. But you put him up still, I think you put him up against an actual experienced fighter in the prime of his career, he's not going to perform the same way. One or two punches could change the whole fight for him. I think there's levels to the game, right? And I think he's still way behind in terms of competing for a belt in his division. But you got to give him credit. If he's going to be fighting these 38, 40-year-old retired MMA fighters, hey, he's going to keep winning. But I do not think he would win against an MMA fighter in the cage, there's a rumor that these guys might meet again in the cage. I would love to see, but I think he gets submitted in the first round if that happens.
Now, I can only imagine Jake Paul running around the octagon like a chicken with no head as Nate Diaz tries to take him down in a chokehold. But Jonka, your takes on this?
Yeah. I saw this fight from start to finish, and from like the third to from the first to the third round, Jake was just annihilating Nate Diaz. It was just Nate Diaz looked way too sloppy. He looked like he wasn't fit enough. He was just there for the fight. But then the fourth came in, and Nate Diaz was like, all right, let me start to throw some punches back. And I'm not gonna lie, he caught Jake Paul a couple of times by surprise, and then Jake Paul was like, all right, let me stand back a little bit. Let me adjust my distance and everything. And that's experience, obviously. Um, and then obviously he gets knocked out in the fifth round, Nate Diaz, which cost him points, which was hard to make up those 2 points for the rest of the fight. But then Nate Diaz, after I don't know what happened after that round, it was I'm telling you, watch the fight, watch the video on YouTube. He flipped the script. Like obviously, like they probably like split the rest of those rounds, but Nate Diaz was a completely different fighter after that.
I
But
think like
go ahead.
the key takeaway too, like the reason why I think like in an MMA fight, like Jake Paul has no chance, is because like you said, Jonka, like he started super hot, right? Just trying to get like a huge right hand and just hitting Nate Diaz with power shots. You almost cannot, like it's almost like an unwritten rule. You can't do that in MMA because you do that in the first round, by the second or third, you're completely gassed. And then you have to deal with wrestling. You have to deal with all the other stuff. So, yeah, Nate Diaz, I think, showed his cardio, but in terms of actually being prepared for the moment for this fight, I don't think he took it serious.
And I will say this. This is obviously separate from the fight. Whatever I know a lot of people don't like Jake. You can say what you can like, hate him, like him, whatever. Well, that's your opinion. But like the dude has millions of dollars. He's been training for like 5 years with the top boxing trainers. You can't you can't doubt this guy anymore. Like every fight, I know people say, "Oh, why don't you fight a real boxer?" But every person that he's fought to this point, everybody has said he was gonna lose, and he's beat him except for the Fury fight when he fought the real boxer. But he actually didn't do that bad in that fight either. But he lost. But like every other fight, if it was Woodley, Nate Robinson, I forgot what was the other one. Deji, the first one. It was just everybody thought he was just gonna lose every fight, and he just like, all right, I'm gonna knock this guy out, knock this guy out, and so we can't doubt this guy anymore. The dude, he's 26, he's 6'1", almost 6'2", 76 wingspan, orthodox. Like he's not, bro. The guy trains every single day, like for 4 or 5 years. Even if I did that, I would be completely different, physically, mentally, and skill wise. If I were to go into a fight, you know, you're like I can knock somebody out. Obviously, I'm not in the best of shape, but, but still, we can't stop. Like, you can't doubt anymore. Like this guy can't fight. So hopefully, next fight, like you said, is going to be in the UFC or in the Octagon. I know Jake Paul did do wrestling in college at like the highest level. He almost won the national championship, just like his brother did.
Mhm.
So they have experience grappling and all that stuff. So it would be interesting to be honest.
Yeah, I'd watch it. Yeah.
I definitely watch that.
Oh yeah, so I mean, we definitely will be looking out for that. But let's go into a topic that, and honestly, I've been waiting to talk about this all week: the Pac-12 and the ACC. Right now, with this all entire conference realignment, this has been absolutely insane. And for those who do follow on my content, especially on Twitter, I do cover a little bit of college football. Jonka, of course, follows that of the Hurricanes and does a lot of coverage for PlugTalkSports for But to give you kind of the background of everything, it all started when University of Southern California decided to, hey, let's go out to New Jersey to play football and join the Big Ten with Ohio State and Michigan and, of course, Michigan State. So that ended up becoming a thing where Big Ten now spread across the country, and everyone else, said, why not? Texas and Oklahoma ended up going to the SEC, and then now the Pac-12, the Conference of Champions, is now a conference of four. Oregon, as well as others such as Arizona, leaving to go to the Big 12, the Big 10. Now we have the Pac-12 riddled to just four teams, as mentioned before, that being Oregon State, Stanford, Washington State, and the University of California, Berkeley. And also one of the teams which I thought was kind of interesting about it from the Pac-12, Colorado, a team that won one game last year, going to the Big 12 just because maybe Deion Sanders might change things to get them 2 wins. I don't know. The talent pool is not all there. What I really want to say about this, though, how good is the Big 10 compared to the Pac-12 before all this stuff? Like, Oregon was always in the mix. Stanford had Andrew Luck, was a little bit in the mix with McCaffrey back then. Then you also look on the other side of Washington State, Utah winning the Pac-12 twice as a top 10 nationally ranked team. Big 10, Ohio State, Michigan. Anyone else? Am I really going to go crazy over Wisconsin? Am I really going to go crazy over Rutgers? Am I really going to go crazy over Michigan State football? Like the Pac-12 football-wise was a better conference than a lot of these other ones in the Power 5 of college football, in my honest opinion. And now you just, kill tradition, the Rose Bowl. Who knows what happens to the Rose Bowl at this point? But all that aside, the Big 10, it's a huge win. It's a huge win for TV. But for the West Coast viewers, I mean, you got to wake up at, 10, 9 o'clock to watch a kickoff in New Jersey, as I mentioned before. That's the one thing. I still can't get over the fact New Jersey college football is a real thing for Southern California people. But this realignment, TV deals, and I thought something that was really interesting about Eli Drinkwitz from the head coach of Mizzou. He talked about the players. Like, did they take in consideration of the players who have families who now have to make this 3,000-mile travel to just watch their kid play football? And again, a lot of these kids chose the school because they want to be local to their family and, of course, their hometown. So travel for that and softball, soccer, baseball. A lot of those teams and programs, they don't got flights. They don't got commercial flights, first-class flights. They got buses, and they got to trek all the way across the state. So honestly, I think this entire thing, especially for the Pac-12, it's stupid, especially for the teams that are going to make this deal and go out to, again, Big Ten is ridiculous. And then also in the ACC part, Florida State trying to go SEC, not likely. But Jonka, for you, because of course with the Hurricanes, I'm not too positive if there is discussions or if there is any bit of, tempo of even being a part of anything. But what are your takes as a huge college football reporter?
As of what I've heard right now from a lot of people like Alex Dono, if you guys don't know Alex Dono, he's well versed in the college football community. But I've been hearing a lot from the big one like Clemson and Florida State. Supposedly for Florida State, it's just a lot of talk right now. They don't have the money to back it up because for them to leave the ACC, it'd be upwards of $100 million, and that's a lot of money, which no one has right now because the ACC doesn't make any money just because all this the terrible TV deal. It's like I think from what I heard one day, the ACC was making $30 million, and the SEC was making like upwards of 70 to 80 million a year. And I'm like, how are any other conferences supposed to even compete? And that's just for football.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, bro, like I understand that the competition is better in the SEC, but like for the recently, I mean, the ACC hasn't done that bad. Clemson has won national championships. Miami has won. Florida State has won. I'm like, we haven't been that bad, but yet we're making legit half, almost more than half, the amount of money the SEC is making. So it's like, does it really matter?
Yeah.
Like it just seems like we're just stuck in this contract right now, and the ACC is just a whatever conference. It's just like everybody wants out because they're not making as much money. Like let's just say for example, Florida State right now on the rise, Florida on the rise, Miami, the big three, UCF not pretty good on that rise too. I think they just moved conferences. Yep. FAU just went to the AAC. So all these four teams are like coming up. They're in the come up, and let's say like they draw in a lot of money. Like obviously the big names FSU, UF, FSU. Miami, like those are big games that you can make. Like obviously Miami FSU, Miami Clemson, FSU Gators. Like these are televised games, but yet they're not making as much money because of the way the ACC is televised. No one cares for the ACC. Everybody just wants to rather watch, obviously Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, I think, whoever else is in the SEC, then just watch they'd rather watch the ACC. It's only like maybe 3, 4 teams in the ACC that's even good. The rest is just scattered around.
Oh yeah, and also, I mean, what is it? ACC network? I mean, how many people are paying direct TV
Exactly.
just to get that open? You know what I mean? Just to see Virginia. I don't know. But Isaac, what about you? What are your takes so far about this?
Well, I mean, for me, it almost feels like the Super League. I don't know if you guys remember. I think it's almost a couple years ago now. The Super League in European soccer, where the top 10, like 8, 10 clubs, including my favorite club, Manchester United. I'm sorry, I'm wearing my Orlando City jersey today. But yeah, it's sad. It's really sad. I wouldn't put my knowledge of college football up against you guys, especially Jonka. Covering the Canes and stuff like that. Brandon, you cover the Gators really well. Obviously, writing for the paper there and for UF. But I just say I am a college football fan, and nobody's watching Georgia Tech. Nobody's watching FIU, which I forgot even what conference they're at.
Conference
Nobody's watching
USA.
these. What was that?
Conference USA.
The conference. Nobody's watching like these smaller schools, and the margin is already just so bad, and the smaller schools are not going to suffer even more by these bloated TV contracts and bloated conferences. I mean, the Big Ten isn't even just 10 teams; it's almost like 20 teams now.
Yeah. No, it's
And
ridiculous.
it's really it's sports washing, and that term has been used a lot in that conversation of the top soccer clubs or football clubs of the world when you talk about the Super League, and now it's happening here in the United States with the college programs. Yeah, the USC story is very bizarre. How are you going to go from Southern California all the way to New Jersey? It's mind blowing, and it is sad. Like I said, as a college football fan, just a general neutral fan, because these TV contracts are getting bigger and bigger, and the margin or just the discrepancy, that's the word, the discrepancy between the smaller schools who aren't benefiting versus the Oklahoma, the Texas, programs of the world. It's way too much. It's way too much, and it's sad to see.
No, absolutely.
Like sorry, Brandon, but like out of a pool of $80 million, everybody gets a piece of the pie in the SEC. But imagine you divide like 30 million with the same amount of teams in the ACC, like it's a joke.
Yeah.
Like it's more facilities, more resources. You can use that for scholarships. It helps you completely on the recruiting trail too, and it's just so lopsided how the ACC is so badly structured, and the TV deal is absolutely dog water. That is just making it just look it makes Miami, FSU, UF, UCF, FIU, everybody in Florida or anywhere else that isn't the SEC look bad, even though we're not that bad. We
Yeah.
deserve more money. We just did a bad contract.
Yeah, and I mean, Jonka, as you mentioned before, with Clemson having recent success, I mean, like what 6 years ago, was considered a top 10 national ranked team. So a lot of things for the ACC to really maneuver on the next contract deal negotiations. One thing I would say before we go into the next topic, though, which I thought was a little bit interesting because mentioning FIU, the FIU soccer men's team, right? They're part of the AAC. They're not Conference USA, and they've been able to find success through there.
Okay.
If hypothetically, if it was just the football program going on to another conference, but not including the rest of the athletics of the university, would this be better in your mind, or do you think it will still have that controversy, being it is football?
It would be a little bit more complicated due to, how do you say, scheduling wise,
Mm-hmm.
because then you'd be used to, you'd have everybody from the AAC that plays in whatever they play, but then you got, I guess, the SEC or Big Ten, whichever one we decide to join. If we were to get out of the ACC, they'd come in. It would, and these teams are big, so we would have bigger crowds, more money to deal with, and plus the amount of people that were going to come in to watch the game, because we know the SEC teams don't joke around when it comes to their fans. So it's like we'd have to like revamp the entire stadium for FIU or or UM doesn't have a stadium, but it'd be Hard Rock, so they're good. They're fine. I mean, it'd be a little bit of chaos at the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it would work out. But just the thing I would find a problem is that all these different sports, it's all these different conferences. So just imagine Miami SEC, AAC for volleyball, or soccer is Big Ten, and like this that. So many teams that you're playing up against, and I think it will just get all mixed and matched and too much at the same time. It would be way easier just to have, let's say, if everybody was on the AAC and ACC, all right, it would be easily scheduled. All right, this week FIU football plays Georgia for some reason. All right, now the soccer will play Georgia, volleyball will play Georgia, basketball will play Georgia. It'd be so much easier to schedule if it was all at once, but that's not how it works. So
That is true. So, and the last thing I would say, because for the future of the Pac-12 right now, two things. The AAC is interested in adding the four remaining Pac-12 schools, as I mentioned before, that of Oregon State, Stanford, Washington State, and the University of California, Berkeley. But the Cal Bears, Tuesday, their board is going to have a discussion about their Pac-12 membership. So that might be the next team out of the Conference of Champions, as the Pac-12 is just really getting gutted now. But staying with football, but going the more professional side of things, I think that, training camp is at full swing around the NFL. Preseason games starting up later on this weekend. And we've been seeing some, little things here and there in the AFC. Patrick Mahomes, doing more wizardry. Then we have, hopefully Hard Knocks episode is going to be a blast because they're already seeing the Hall of Fame game. So we're going to see Aaron Rodgers a little bit. Tua Tagovailoa, we saw them. And, of course, we'll be always going back and forth with coverage for that. In the NFC, we got big names, of course. Again, I mean, do I have to remind people about what's going on with Jalen Hurts in Philadelphia? What's going on just alone in that division with Dak Prescott as well, making some eye-popping numbers. But who right now, a little bit early, but who right now is the best quarterback for each conference, NFC and AFC? Isaac, what are you thinking right now that pops to your mind when I say that?
Well, I'm actually struggling in my mind to find the NFC like somebody else besides Jalen Hurts. And I know Danny's probably watching and he's punching the air right now because he could probably think of one guy on his side of things. But for the AFC, I mean, it's so easy. It's Patrick Mahomes. You take away Tyreek Hill, and he still finds success. Obviously, it's a complicated sport. A lot of things have to go right to find success. But I think he's just the most consistent guy in the AFC. Yes, Aaron Rodgers going with the Jets, will help the Jets hopefully climb to a playoff spot for their fans. But and I also think of Josh Allen. Josh Allen has been super, super consistent. Joe Burrow, I think if he didn't get injured, might be in that conversation. But for me, it's Patrick Mahomes on the AFC. Sorry, and then for the NFC, I'll just go with Jalen Hurts because I think he has so much to show. Barring, hopefully he doesn't get injured, he stays healthy, and those offensive linemen keep him right up in Philadelphia. But I think he's just going to absolutely kill it next year, showing obviously his talent with his legs, but also with his arm. I think he's really going to give us an MVP year this season.
Okay, MVP in his future. Jonka, what about you?
As much as I would love to say Joe Burrow, it's Patrick Mahomes at the AFC. He won the Super Bowl. Giving props. He's the AFC's best quarterback. Definitely not Tua. And then for the NFC, it's tough. It's tough. I see
Geno
Jalen.
Smith.
Bro
I-
said, oh my gosh. My
I
bad, Jonka.
see-
Go ahead.
I see Jalen Hurts and Justin Fields kind of like the same player. Obviously, one team is better than the other roster wise. They can run it and they can throw it. They're really skilled, Man, but you know what? Just based off what we saw last season, I'm gonna agree with Isaac. Jalen Hurts, but I will say this: watch out. I know this is gonna be surprising for these two quarterbacks. Watch out for Geno Smith. There we go. Or Jared Goff from the Lions.
Wow.
The Lion. Look up his stats from last season. I am telling you, it's some crazy stats. I think he found his team, and this team's on the up and go. I'm telling you, this. Watch out for the Lions this season. They were sneaky.
Oh, yeah. And also, their season ticket holder membership sold out. A lot of people are even saying they're going to win the division easily, which, again, who knows, right? Green Bay, Jordan Love era starting now. Justin Fields still, we got to see more out of the Chicago Bears, I think, before we're going to say they can take the division. And then I think we're all kind of forgetting about the Vikings and whatnot, but, it's always nice to dream. But what I would for the two top quarterbacks per conference, and both of them kind of hot takes, start with the AFC.
Don't you dare say Tua. Don't you dare say Tua.
No, I'm not gonna. I'm not. I'm not that too big of a homer, but
Okay, thank God. Okay,
I say this. Minshew can start in Philly, and that'll be NFC. But what I would say for AFC, and I'm saying this more or less not only because I believe it can easily happen, but also because it needs to happen for not only this player, but for this organization. Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar, he's been an MVP, but he's got to be the undisputed best quarterback in that conference to lead them to a playoff win and maybe something deeper than that. Maybe, AFC conference championship appearance. Who knows? But Lamar Jackson definitely will be the best one. I think coming off a huge contract, he's going to be more free. He's got bigger weapons at this time around with Odell Beckham. The team itself, there's a lot of questions, I think, defensively of how they're going to do against the rest of the AFC, especially during playoff time. But Lamar Jackson, I have a lot of high hopes for him. Josh Allen, he'll be in the Madden curse for an entire year, so don't look at him. And for Patrick Mahomes, of course, phenomenal player, a wizard with the football. But I don't think he's going to elevate his game any more than what we already seen. Again, I could be wrong easily, but who knows? And then when you're looking at the NFC, another hot take. No one's looking out west. The Arizona Cardinals, I think, with Kyler Murray. I see the problem.
I thought you were going to say Brock Purdy.
No, Kyler Murray, Heisman winner. The guy still got it. I think, honestly, the way that Geno Smith had an insane year, and again, I don't think Geno's going to go off again, but I'm liking Arizona under a new head coach. I'm liking Arizona getting close to winning the division, not winning it. I don't know they've had enough strength for that, but talent-wise, I think Murray's going to be a heavy favorite for a lot of fantasy teams and a heavy favorite for the best in the NFC. When you look, again, the NFC has a lot of great quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts, I think, already been to a Super Bowl. But how big does a leap do you see him in a year where it's going to be a lot of people going after your heads in Philadelphia? You're going to be a top team in that division, a very competitive division as that is with Dallas and, of course, New York. I'm not seeing Hurts go insane next year. I'm not seeing a crazy, Carson Wentz 2017 year. I'm seeing more of an average year, but Philadelphia is still successful, but not an insane year where it's like, oh, this was a top 10 NFL all time. So I got Kyler Murray shocking some heads. Of course, we've already seen bits of his talent. It's all about, can he stay on the fields, and who are the players around him that are going to be able to stay on the field with him. I mean, they got talented guys. John, get that note. I'm gonna keep that on a post-it card, man. I'm gonna keep it a post-it card. But with that being said, let's go into our last topic of the night. Diana Taurasi, 10,000 points for the Phoenix Mercury and 10,000 in the WNBA. It's a feat that's never been beaten. She already had the all-time scoring record for the WNBA, and she was able to push it through. I'm thinking the WNBA, it's growing now as its own league into now getting more expansion teams. There's only 12 teams right now, but they're planning to get more expansion teams, and Taurasi is a part of that. It is, I believe, going to be her last year, if not one of her last years. But this is a huge feat for women's basketball, I think, for the game of basketball. And, for the game of basketball itself, for the WNBA, it's getting to be, I'm not going to say at a peak, because I think there could still be more, especially for one we've been seeing out of college athletics for women's basketball and the talent that's going into the WNBA, such as, I do apologize, I forgot her full name, I believe Boston, from Southern, my apologies, not Southern, but South Carolina. I got the Pac-12 still in my mind. But I'm telling you right now, the talent in the WNBA behind Taurasi, who will be leaving soon, it's been getting better and better. But, guys, what does this mean for WNBA and also for Taurasi getting 10K?
Well, I mean, I'm going to be honest. I haven't followed her career very, very closely. Like I've never sat down to watch her, and I know that's bad of me. I probably should watch a lot more, and I would love for Miami to get an expansion team. I think it's about darn time that Miami gets a WNBA squad team, right? But I did see the post from ESPN when she set that record, and despite all the stupid comments I saw, one thing that I did see a comment, and I can't put it up on the screen, but essentially the person was saying that Taurasi has paved the way, in such a way that you're starting to see like these young shooters, like the guard from the New York Liberty. Her name is Sabrina Ionesco. And I remember when she was playing for Iowa, she was taking these deep threes, like Damian Lillard, LeBron. Like you think of like all the deep shooters in the NBA, like she resembles players like that, and she's just so young. So to see like the impact that Taurasi is having in the game, even at this point in her career, because she only has maybe a season or two left, like you said, Brandon, is amazing. Definitely got to check out some of her games this year, especially before she retires. But yeah, I think it's an amazing accomplishment.
No, yeah, I mean, as you mentioned before, the Liberty though, they have a hell of a team this year. That roster jam-packed, especially with Sabrina, who is an offensive mechanism. But the Mercury, who are bottom of the Western Conference, and of course for Taurasi, incredible feat. I don't know much if it's going to help of her getting to the playoffs. But the WNBA is having a lot of talent, and as I mentioned before, coming out of that gene pool of those college athletics. But Jonka, for you, what are your takes on this?
I gotta say something, but Isaac took the words right out of my mouth. I need the Heat to have a women's team. I would love to see. I would love to see. I don't know what it would be called. The
The
Miami,
Flame.
the Miami Mamacitas or something. But but I mean, shout out 10,000 points is no slack. I mean, it's 10K.
Yeah.
Um, I'm just overall impressed. Hopefully, she can hit maybe 12,500 by the end of the next 2 years. Who knows? Maybe 13,000. But I just hope that the WNBA continues to expand because I just feel like there aren't enough eyes on it.
Yeah.
Why many people don't go? Because who are the? I mean, I know people that watch sports know some of the teams on the WNBA. They just don't watch it, like Phoenix Mercury, and then I forgot what the other ones are. The Liberty, forgot, but I think with more teams, more recognition, more money, because I know right now the NBA is paying for the league to stay afloat because they aren't making enough. You know, how do you say?
Money.
I don't know. They're not making enough
Awesome.
money, so the NBA needs to just like add enough money just so they can stay afloat. So I'm just hoping that with now this inspires other players from the women's players to like go out and try their best and try to bring the next like generation of women's players to like take this WNBA stuff to the next level, which I definitely watch them.
Yeah.
But just we don't in Miami we don't have a team. So hey, Mickey Harrison, shout out.
Hey, and also because Miami did had a WNBA team, but it was a long time ago, early 2000s. The Miami Soul, SOL. So
I don't
yeah,
like the name either.
it really doesn't ring off the tongue well. But before we end this podcast, real quick, what would you call the potential expansion Miami WNBA team?
I will say this before I answer.
Mhm.
I want everybody listening to drop a comment on what you think a Miami WNBA expansion team would be. I want to see those comments. To be honest, Miami.
I would just go for like something similar to the basketball culture of the Miami Heat. Shout out to you, Mickey Harrison. You know, you could try it. You know, just try it. I think Miami Flames or Miami culture, something like that with like the red and black trim. And like I don't know if you guys watch hockey, but like the Calgary Flames, you know
Yeah,
how like in the logo it has like the flame at the end. Be
it was
something like that.
that'll be a good one. You
Or I
know,
was just thinking, I just got it right now.
okay.
The Miami Force, because of the Sky Force, the G League of the NBA of the Miami Heat G League. So
No, yeah, I mean that's a good affiliation. You know what I was thinking though? Still keeping with the whole, don't be like the blah 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 with an S at the end, but the Miami Wave. It's beach related, it's ocean related. They're gonna be playing near Bayside. You know what I mean? So you're right there by the water, man. They're a part of the wave. They're a part of the wave.
What about the Miami beaches? But the pun intended.
oh
Miami.
my god.
I don't know. It's a good idea, you know what I mean? But the WNBA is definitely got to look into that. They should look into a Miami team, though, and bringing it back here to South Beach.
The Miami Drive. So, like Ocean Drive.
Ooh,
Yeah, that actually does roll off the tongue.
Miami traffic.
That don't roll at all.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so, well, that's all the content we had for this time. for our episode. Of course, we'll be back next Monday, as per usual, Mondays at 9 p.m. for another episode of Plug Talk Sports. But again, Jonka, Isaac, and myself, Brandon, we thank you for joining in, and we'll see you guys on the next one.